This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. One of my personal favorite games from 2023 was a little indie called Deathwish Enforcers. I wouldn't be surprised if you hadn't even heard of this title. Oddly enough, it did have a big publisher behind it, especially for an indie, but they did a really poor job of getting that game out there. When the game released, it felt like it had a shadow launch of sorts. There was no big splash the week it came out, which really did a disservice to the game itself, because when you actually have the title in your hands, you can feel the quality, along with it jumping right off of the screen. It's a throwback game, one that many of us remember as kids. I honestly only knew about it because I go out and try to find titles like this to cover on the channel. I'm a sucker for an underdog, and this was definitely one of those games. After playing it and having a chance to talk with the developer, it was cool to get a sneak peek on how changes in game elements are never really easy to implement like many of us really think. Through this, I have become friends with him, and now Deathwish Enforcers is getting another chance to get more attention. The game is coming to PC, something I saw many people request in my prior videos on the game. So if this was the only thing holding you back, you might want to dive into it right now. Something else I want to touch on again later is that the PC version is self-published by the developer, so if you had issues with the old publisher, know that the PC version is only centered on the dev, with no involvement of the prior publisher. And after playing the PC version, this is the best version of the game too. Deathwish Enforcers really got a raw deal when it first came out. It was an indie, so outside of a few handful of indie titles, the big game press really doesn't do the best job at covering these types of games. And at the same time, I can understand that it is hard to cover many of these games, especially the gems. So many indies are released on Steam daily, and there is so much crap on there too. So you have to sift through a lot to get to those nuggets. And some of the best indies are the ones where it feels like it's fueled by our nostalgia, but made like a new game within an old style, or maybe even combining modern elements with an old look or gameplay mechanic. In some ways, the game can feel like a hidden gem that was released back then, but only now we're discovering it today. Deathwish Enforcers invokes that quality arcade action, the type of action that is either really good for short bursts or for longer play sessions where you want to better your score. It's old school gameplay satisfaction. There's no use of loot or experience point systems, it's all around the gameplay and actions you can do. I have returned to this title a few times now, and each time I very much enjoy it. Deathwish Enforcers lifts that great pick-up-and-play feel to the arcade shooting action. You get thrown in there, there's no nonsense or slow build-up. Right from the start, it's all action until the end. Now don't get me wrong, I enjoy my slow, impactful build-ups to games or intros, along with titles that provide you with lots of rewards and progression. But to have something new that is rooted within a style from the past, it can also feel very refreshing and just as satisfying. This feels like a fun quarter muncher that I would have played with my father while in the arcades. I have so many memorable times playing games with my father in the arcade. Grab your quarters and find a good co-op title to try and beat. And then there were those situations where you had randoms coming with you and helping you out, and you were forming new friendships. It was a simpler time and honestly kinda better in some ways. Deathwish Enforcers very much teleports me back to that time in my life. Sure, it has those nostalgic touches, but it's definitely something made with care. You select from one of 5 characters, and your objective is to blast through all the stages, with a boss encounter punctuating each area. Besides surviving the onslaught of foes, you're trying to grab as many coins and money as possible to increase your score. If you like chasing high scores, this is another reason to return back to this one over and over again. When the game first came out, you had 4 characters to choose from, and they were all based on different film characters and actors from that time period. So you can be Dirty Harry, Charles Bronson, a combination of Austin Power girls, and one even based on Pam Grier. Each have their own unique specials, weapons, and even melee attacks. The stats for each character are unique to them as well. Now, after I played the game and reviewed it, and I have talked with the developer about this title, one thing that I told him that I would have loved to see is a Bond-like character to play as. There's plenty of Bond references and even bosses within Deathwish that relate back to Bond, so Bond itself would fit right in. Well, now you can play as a 5th character, Maxwell, which is based on Roger Moore. You even get to use the golden gun, and he has a special that's right out of Austin Powers. Now I only play as Maxwell. The stages themselves come with a lot of variety, from fighting through dirty streets, a prison, a graveyard full of zombies, a haunted house, along with many others. Motorcycle levels help to change up the action too. The bosses are really fun with their own ins and outs, and I love the references that pop up here as well. Deathwish Enforcers can be juvenile, politically incorrect, and always funny. When I first played the game, I wasn't expecting the amount of humor here. At the very least, you'll be smiling throughout the entire game, and at the very best, you're gonna be laughing loudly. Also, the voice acting very much adds to this. Personally, I love the Arnold voice acting.
Oh, I gotta charge up my booty.
Something that I do think that is worth noting is that the Special Ed version does feel faster and smoother than the initial versions found on the PS4 and Switch. Plus you get the Bond character to select from. Through this review, I did use a combination of new and old footage, so anytime you see Maxwell, that is the new footage. The arcade action is satisfying in both single and local co-op play. The gunshots, smacks, and specials all have impactful sounds to them, adding some weight to your actions. I also think the style and type of game has a lot of legs to it. Characters and levels could even be expanded in the future with new titles, or entries including other action movie icons from other eras. Deathwish Enforcers is a really fun game. It brings me back to a simpler time, and provides the quality the whole time you're playing it. One big thing I saw from some of my audience, along with gamers just talking about this game generally, was how they wanted to play or buy this game, but they had issues with the publisher limited run games. And in the last few years, they have been making decisions that have been making many gamers angry. I do not agree with many of their actions, especially when they fired their community manager, because she followed a few people on Twitter that they didn't agree with. Sadly, Deathwish Enforcers I think got stuck in the crossfire. But now with the PC version being self-published, that means when you purchase this version, it's only going to the developer of the game. None of that is going to the prior publisher. These are the types of indies I think that are worth supporting, and in this case deserves more attention. I am friends with the developer, so I'm not hiding my bias, but even just looking at this game by itself, I'm having a really good time with it. It's old-fashioned in the best way, with quality minute-to-minute gameplay. Have you played Deathwish Enforcers Special Ed for the PC? Are you interested in it? If so, let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.